There's a moment in every spiritual journey when everything breaks, not because we failed, but because we tried too hard. I had locked myself in a cabin in the Alaskan wilderness, committed to meditating for 10 hours a day, fasting, and forcing myself into states of transcendence. I pushed my body, my mind, my breath, trying to crack consciousness like a code. Day 5, I collapsed. Physically, yes, but more importantly, spiritually. And it was in that collapse, in that moment where I surrendered completely, that something happened. A flash, a stillness, a shift so profound, I felt like I stepped out of time. That was the moment the quantum shift occurred. And it didn't come when I was striving. It came when I finally stopped trying so hard. We've been conditioned to believe that effort equals progress, that the more we do, the more we get. And while that might be true in the world of business, in the quantum realm, the spiritual field, the opposite is often true. The more you push, the more reality resists. You may notice it in your life. You've visualized, affirmed, journaled, worked on yourself, and yet nothing changes. Why? Because the very energy of striving carries the frequency of lack. When we try too hard, we're sending out a signal to the universe that says, I don't have this thing yet. And the quantum field, like a mirror, reflects that frequency back. Imagine trying to fall asleep by concentrating harder. The more effort you make, the farther sleep drifts. The state of sleep, like the state of spiritual alignment, requires surrender, trust, a letting go. And just like falling asleep, the quantum responds not to force, but to frequency. The shift begins when we stop obsessing over the outcome and start tuning into the now. Because this moment right here is the access point to all timelines, all transformation, all possibility. And when we learn to relax into it, not escape it, not fix it but be with it, reality begins to unfold in ways logic can't explain.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
This is where most people get stuck. They think surrender means giving up, but surrender is not apathy. It's not laziness. It's precision. It's alignment. It means you've done the inner work, set the intention, and now you trust the universe to do its part. You're no longer micromanaging the divine. You're allowing, and in that allowing you become a vessel for intelligence far beyond your own mind. You stop trying to control every variable and start dancing with the unknown. That's when the quantum shift happens, not because you forced it, but because you became available to it. Let's go deeper. What if the very energy of trying is anchored in fear? Fear that you are not enough. Fear that the universe won't show up for you unless you hustle for your worth. That fear, subtle as it may be, creates resistance. And resistance blocks flow. You might be taking all the right steps, but if they're fueled by fear, the frequency is off. I think of it like tuning a radio. If you're even slightly off the right frequency, you'll get static. The same applies to your life. When your frequency is aligned, things click. Synchronicities happen. People call. Opportunities appear. Not because you chase them, but because you match them. Ask yourself this: what are you trying too hard to fix, manifest, or prove right now? What if the very act of trying is the thing preventing it? Could you let it go even for a moment and trust that something higher already has your back? This is not about giving up on your desires. It's about elevating your approach. It's about moving from force to flow, from grasping to receiving, from doing to being. Because when you stop trying so hard, you create space. And space is where the quantum lives. One night deep in meditation, I stopped everything. No breath work, no mantras, just stillness. And in that stillness, I felt my entire identity dissolve. The part of me that was striving vanished, and what remained was presence, pure, luminous, unshakable presence. In that space, I didn't need anything. I wasn't waiting for a sign, a breakthrough, or a miracle. I was the miracle. And from that vibration, everything began to shift. Not immediately, but subtly, profoundly. Over the following days, people I hadn't spoken to in years reached out. Projects that had stalled came alive. My body felt lighter, my thoughts more spacious, my energy magnetic. This is the paradox of the quantum path. When you stop chasing, things start arriving. When you let go, you receive. When you stop trying to heal, you begin to feel whole. But this requires trust, not blind faith, but embodied trust. The kind of trust that knows you are already connected to the intelligence that creates worlds. It's not outside of you, it is you. But as long as you're trying to earn your way into alignment, you're blocking what's already yours. You've seen this in nature. A seed doesn't try to become a tree. It simply unfolds according to the intelligence encoded within it. The same intelligence lives in you. But you must create the right environment not by force, but by resonance. That means surrendering the noise, the need to prove, the urge to perform. It means listening more and speaking less, resting more and pushing less, trusting more and controlling less. And yes, that's terrifying at first, because we've been taught that control equals safety. But in the quantum, control is an illusion. Presence is the only safety. Have you ever noticed how exhausted you feel when you're clinging to an outcome? How your body tightens, your mind races, your breath shortens? That's not alignment. That's survival mode. And you can't create miracles from survival. You create them from coherence, from presence, from the now. The quantum shift isn't loud. It doesn't arrive with fireworks. It arrives in the quiet moments, when you finally stopped running, when you've stopped trying to impress, fix, or force, when you've made peace with what is. That's the portal. I want to challenge you. For the next 24 hours, stop trying. Not in a passive way, but in a conscious way. If you find yourself obsessing over the future, pause. Breathe. Ask, what if this moment is enough? If you feel the urge to over-explain, to control, to manage someone else's perception of you, stop. Let go. Watch what happens when you choose ease over effort. Watch how the universe responds differently when your energy shifts from tension to trust. You might be shocked. Because here's the truth, your energy is your currency, not your resume, not your strategy. Your frequency is what determines what enters your field. And when you're trying too hard, your frequency says, I'm not whole yet. But when you relax, when you trust, when you know that everything is already unfolding, your frequency changes. You become a magnet, a lighthouse, a portal. You move from victim to creator. That is the quantum shift. And it's available right now. Not when you've done more. Not when you've healed more. Now. So who would you be without the story that you have to grind, hustle, or prove yourself to be worthy of the life you desire? Who would you be if you stopped trying so hard? Not out of defeat, but out of wisdom. Could you allow yourself to be guided instead of always pushing? Could you remember that your soul already knows the way and that your job is not to lead but to listen? That's where the magic is. That's where the shift happens. Not in the effort, but in the exhale. So now we're in the space between effort and emergence. And here's where it gets uncomfortable, because we've been programmed deeply and unconsciously to tie our worth to our output. We've been taught that stillness is laziness, that rest is weakness, that surrender means failure. But in the quantum field, those old definitions collapse. Stillness is not passive, it's powerful. Rest is not escape, it's recalibration. Surrender is not defeat, it's alignment. And when you start living from this deeper intelligence, everything begins to move without you pushing. Life starts flowing toward you, not away from you. I remember a woman who came to one of my retreats. She was a high-level executive, type A, always the one doing, fixing, solving. She came because everything had stopped working. Money wasn't flowing. Her health was deteriorating. Her relationships were falling apart. I told her one thing, do less. She laughed. Then she cried, because she realized that her whole life had been built on the belief that she must constantly prove her value. But when she let go, truly let go within days, her body began to heal. Clients started calling without her reaching out. Her partner said she seemed like a different person, lighter, more present, more alive. And she hadn't done more. She had simply stopped trying so hard. This is the shift. It's not something you earn. It's something you allow. And to allow, you have to be willing to sit in the unknown. This is the part most of us resist. We want certainty. We want guarantees. But the quantum doesn't operate on guarantees. It operates on resonance. It responds to your being, not your doing. So when you're trying to manifest something, whether it's a relationship, a purpose, a healing, the key isn't how hard you try. The key is how deeply you trust, how clearly you align, how honestly you are willing to release control. Let's talk about control, because this is where so many get stuck. Control is the ego's attempt to manage the infinite, and it always ends in exhaustion. The ego thinks it knows best. It wants the outcome on its terms, in its timeline. But the quantum doesn't care about your timeline. It cares about your frequency. And if your frequency is desperation, no matter how many affirmations you chant, you'll still be met with resistance, because the quantum only responds to coherence. That means your words, thoughts, emotions, and actions must be in harmony. No more pretending, no more forcing, no more spiritual bypassing. This is where the real work begins, not the outer work, the inner alignment, the radical honesty, the willingness to admit, I've been trying to force life to fit my ego's agenda, and then the courage to stop, to pause, to listen, to feel. Because when you drop into presence, you realize something profound. The shift is already here. You don't need to reach for it. You need to receive it. You need to get out of the way. And that's the hardest thing for the ego, to surrender the illusion of control and let the soul lead. You felt this before. Those moments when everything just flows, when you're not trying but everything clicks. You meet the right person. You get the perfect idea. You feel light, open, connected. That's the quantum state. That's alignment. And it didn't come from effort, it came from presence. So the question becomes, how can we live in that state more often? Not as a fluke, but as a way of being. The answer is simple but not easy. We stop trying to get there, and we start coming back here. Now, to this breath, this moment, this feeling. It sounds paradoxical, but this is the essence of spiritual mastery. The more you chase the future, the more it escapes you. The more you drop into the now, the more the future bends toward you. Because in the quantum, time is not linear. It's vibrational. You don't move through time, you shift frequencies. And each frequency holds a different version of reality. So if you want to step into a new life, you don't need to wait. You need to match it. Here, now, in your energy, in your presence, in your surrender. Let's pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Inhale slowly. Exhale even slower. Feel your body, your heartbeat, the sensations in your chest. This right here is your access point. You don't need to travel to a mountaintop. You don't need to fast for 40 days. You don't need to master every spiritual practice. You need to be here, to feel this moment fully. And in that full presence, you become a conduit for the quantum. You become the field. And the field begins to move through you, not around you. Remember this, effort is not the enemy. Misaligned effort is. When your actions come from fear, they drain you. When they come from alignment, they energize you. So it's not about doing nothing. It's about doing from a different state. A state of trust, of clarity, of love. When your being leads your doing, your actions become magnetic. They carry a frequency that moves mountains, not because you forced it, but because you became it. I want you to ask yourself something deeply honest. Where in your life are you trying too hard? Where are you forcing, chasing, proving, fixing? Are you trying to force clarity in your purpose? Are you pushing a relationship that no longer aligns? Are you grinding to prove your worth through success? What would it look like to stop, not to give up, but to realign? Could you trust that letting go isn't failure, but the beginning of flow? This is where the quantum shift lies, in the softening, in the exhale, in the space between effort and emergence. And when you live from this space, your life begins to feel different, not easier, but more real, more alive, more truthful. You stop needing to manipulate outcomes because you realize that the outcomes are already encoded in your frequency. All you need to do is stay attuned, stay clear, stay open. I once asked an enlightened teacher, "How do I manifest faster?" He looked at me and said, "Stop trying to manifest. I just become the version of you that already has it." That one sentence shattered everything I thought I knew, because it meant that I didn't need to get anything. I needed to become someone. And becoming doesn't happen through force. It happens through surrender, through releasing the layers that aren't you, through shedding the masks, the attachments, the old stories. And when those fall away, what's left is you, the real you. The you that doesn't need to try so hard because you are the frequency. You don't attract abundance, you are abundance. You don't chase love, you are love. You don't search for purpose, you embody purpose. And from that space, life responds differently. Not because the world changed, but because your vibration did. So here's your invitation: stop trying to make it happen. Start becoming the version of you who knows it already is. Stop waiting for permission. Stop trying to fix what's not broken. Start trusting what you feel more than what you think. Start living from the inside out. That's where the shift happens. And once it does, you'll wonder why you ever tried so hard in the first place. Now we arrive at the final layer, the place where the old self dissolves and something entirely new is born. Not because of what you did, but because of what you let go of. The journey isn't about adding more techniques, more affirmations, more spiritual practices. It's about subtraction, removing the noise, the striving, the subtle tension that tells the universe, "I don't trust you yet." The quantum shift doesn't happen when you finally figure it all out. It happens when you stop carrying the belief that there's something left to figure out. It happens when your nervous system relaxes, when your breath deepens, and when your presence becomes undeniable. Have you ever noticed how children manifest with ease? They imagine something and then forget about it. And often it shows up, not because they visualized perfectly, but because they didn't resist. They didn't overthink. They didn't try to control the how. They just played, they imagined, and then they let go. That's alignment. That's the natural state before we were taught to work hard to deserve. But the quantum field doesn't operate on merit. It operates on vibration. So the only question that matters is, what are you embodying right now? Striving is a signal that says, "I'm not there yet." Surrender says, "I'm already connected." And the universe listens to your energy long before it listens to your words. You may be saying all the right things, but if your energy is tense, if your heart is closed, if your breath is shallow, the signal is distorted. That's why the shift only happens when you stop trying so hard. Because trying too hard is a symptom of separation. It's the belief that you and your desire are apart. But the truth is, you and your desire are one. They are not separate. The moment you resonate with it fully, it begins to arrive effortlessly. Many people ask, "How do I know if I'm trying too hard?" The answer is simple. If it feels heavy, you're forcing. If it feels light, you're flowing. If you're exhausted, you're out of alignment. If you're energized, you're in coherence. Your body is intelligent. It knows. Your emotions are intelligent. They know. But we've been trained to ignore that wisdom in favor of logic. of effort, of external validation. And so we grind, we hustle, we perform, and we stay stuck. But when you stop performing and start feeling, a new layer opens. You begin to see that everything you were chasing was already inside you. The peace, the clarity, the confidence, it was never out there. It was waiting behind the noise of your effort. And the moment you stop trying to be spiritual, you become spiritual. The moment you stop trying to be worthy, you remember that you already are. This is the essence of the quantum reality you create, not by striving, but by becoming. Let's go even deeper. The quantum field is not a vending machine that rewards effort. It's a mirror. A perfect, instant reflection of your inner state. So if you want to change what you see outside, you must become something different inside. Not better, not higher, just more true, more you. And that you is already aligned with your desires. You wouldn't have the desire if the version of you that matched it didn't already exist. The work is to collapse the distance not with effort, but with embodiment. Embodiment is the forgotten art. It's not about what you know intellectually. It's about what you live energetically. You can read all the books, attend all the workshops, repeat all the mantras, but if your body is still holding the belief that you're not safe, not enough, not ready, the shift won't land. That's why trying too hard doesn't help, because it reinforces the belief that you must earn what is already yours. And the quantum doesn't respond to who you pretend to be. It responds to who you are when the masks are off. So the question becomes, who are you when you stop trying to be anything? Who are you when you stop comparing, performing, analyzing? What's left when the striving ceases? That stillness, that essence, that's you. That's the frequency of creation. And when you live from there, the quantum opens. You don't attract things, you align with them. You don't beg the universe, you become the universe expressing itself. You don't wait for proof, you walk in knowing. One of the most powerful moments of my life happened in silence. No ceremony, no special technique, just awareness. I had been meditating for weeks, trying to reach some higher state. And then one morning I gave up, not out of frustration, but out of clarity. I said, I'm done trying. I'm just going to sit here and be. And that's when it happened. A wave of peace so deep, so full, so complete, that tears streamed down my face without a thought in my mind. It wasn't an experience I created. It was an experience I allowed. And from that moment, everything changed. The real shift happens not when you finally succeed, but when you no longer need to. When your happiness is no longer conditional. When your worth is no longer negotiable. When your energy is no longer leaking into the illusion that you are incomplete. Can you imagine living from that state? Waking up not with a list of things to fix, but with a deep sense of trust. Moving through your day not in urgency, but in flow. That's not a fantasy. That's what's available when you stop trying so hard. And make no mistake, the world will test this. You'll be tempted to fall back into old habits of proving and pushing. But each time you choose ease over effort, presence over performance, surrender over striving, you strengthen the signal. You become more coherent, more magnetic, more clear. And the clearer you are, the faster reality reflects you. Not because you forced it, but because you remembered who you are. A divine being, already connected, already worthy, already aligned. So what now? You stop chasing. You start aligning. You stop asking, how do I get there? And start asking, how can I be here? You stop trying to manifest and start becoming the frequency of what you desire. And then you let the quantum do what it does best, reflect you, amplify you, surprise you. The shift isn't coming. It's already here. It's in the breath you're taking right now. It's in the space between your thoughts. It's in the stillness behind your striving. Are you willing to hear it, to feel it, to trust it? Because once you do, nothing will ever be the same. The struggle ends. the effort dissolves, and your life begins to reflect the truth that was always waiting underneath the noise. You are already enough. You are already there. And the moment you stop trying so hard, you arrive. If this touched something deep inside you, then share it. Not because it's viral, but because someone out there is still trying too hard to remember who they really are. And your energy, your shift might be the reminder they've been waiting for.